All right. Good morning. Tom, I hope it's okay. I have a sheet of paper up here. I noticed nobody else had one, but if we just had more time, we could accomplish so much more. You know, if we could make that clock have 13 hours going around, if we find a way to have time. Time is literally a four-letter word, and figuratively in education, it's a four-letter word. As I've had the opportunity over the last 20 years to travel around schools and steal ideas from one school and take it to another, which means that in the last 20 years I've not had an original thought, but I have picked up some ideas to find time. But before I start getting into those, I'm going to give a quiz. And since I used to be a math teacher, I'm going to use Algebra 1 as an example. How many school days does it take to teach an Algebra 1 course? How many school days? If you need to, turn and talk to someone really quickly, and it uses up some of my time. How many school days do you think it takes to teach Algebra 1? Anybody want to throw out an answer? Depends on what? Who the students are. That's a good idea. Well, let's assume that we're an average class, nothing special, no real challenges. Any thoughts? Need all of them. Good answer. 180, I heard. Okay. I'm going to say it takes about 18 days to teach Algebra 1. Now, I'm a math person, as I said, so let's look at it from a math standpoint. Let's say you got 45 minutes a day for those 180 days. Well, that's 135 hours. Let's say our efficiency. We're a fairly efficient school, and we operate at about 80% efficiency. We got pep rallies in there, we've got meetings, we got other things, lost class time. That knocks us down to 108 hours. Using a 6-hour day, that's 18 days. Now, the reason I start with this question is we need to think about time in a different way. We think about it in those 45-minute chunks. We need to think about it completely differently. How can we find time to accomplish these things? So I started with that. And the reason I wanted to focus on this particular session was because we did a study a few years back that found that teachers had students be more effective, have higher achievement when the teachers felt supported. But we said, okay, what does that mean? Well, two things came to the top, and the first one being time. If they felt they were given time to work on their assignments or lessons, to work on developing good instructional practices, various things dealing with time. Second area of support that they thought was essential was they got feedback. But I'm not going to touch that second one right now. I'm going to talk on the first one. So we really started looking at what are things that make a difference with time. And I want to get in the nuts and bolts now. First of all, at least every month, at least once, they need longer period of time. 45 minutes does not work for common planning. They need some extended time. At least once a month, preferably more, they get at least 90 minutes or more to do so. Because in 45 minutes, they got to go to the restroom, they got to check email, they got to make a phone call or two. They get about 30 minutes. They got to be back to their classroom, so forth, so we need to expand time. Second thing we learned, it needs to be during the school day. If you make them do it outside of the school day, we unintentionally send the message, it's not important. Because you have to do it on your time, not our time. Now, so there are many ways to accomplish this. Many of you have probably used. Simple ones such as late start or early release. They can provide time, but I want to share a couple examples how you can do it within the school day and not lose any instructional time. Simple example. Imagine you have an 8-period day. 1 week a month on Monday, first period lasts first period and second period. Second period doesn't meet. Third period. Fourth period doesn't meet. Fifth period. Sixth period doesn't meet. Seventh, and eighth doesn't meet. The next day we flip it. We go 2-2, 4-4, 6-6, 8-8. We didn't lose a minute of instructional time, but we found a way for 90 minutes of planning time. We extended the planning time 1 day a month. So those are simple examples, and I've got many more that we could share on this, but it's the same minutes, the same ideas. I'm not even going to go down the topic of common planning as far as what we do in that time period. Can't do that in this stretch. But I do want you to understand that we need to look how we can view time differently to find time. There's many ways of accomplishing it. Some of your schools, the big taboo that you've got to avoid is maybe you'll say, well, lunch is during fourth period. And I understand lunchrooms run a school a lot of times, and we can't touch that. We may have to look at some other way of accomplishing it for that period. But there are ways that we can find time. And I hope that I'd be more than happy at some point to share others. Tom?
We have 3 minutes for questions. Come ask your questions of Scott.
Others, examples, and many of them build off that particular example of that you can do things. The most outrageous one probably is there is a way that you can organize your staff to where an entire department gets a full day each week. It's called the plus team model. And it would take sitting and showing on a piece of paper, but on Monday, the math department has the entire day common planning in a week. On Tuesday, science department. Wednesday, social studies. Thursday, English. And Friday, the plus team has common planning. That's much more complicated, but that's the extreme model that we've seen used. There's actually a middle school in Alabama that presented on that particular model. I believe it was 2 years ago at our conference. But that idea of finding extended period of time for teachers to collaborate together.
So in the schools that were using these, the 1-1-2-2, did only the core teachers plan together in those tested subjects, or was that extended to electives as well?
I've seen it in both situations. Since it is an entire period, I've seen it where they organize by PLCs, or they've organized cross-disciplinary. And if you did it 2 times a month, you could have it be one time where it is by PLCs, and the other time cross-disciplinary. And or you can spread it out over the course of a week, and maybe only first you do 1-1, the next day 2-2. Maybe you have fifth period, do 5-5, the next day 6-6. So you only have it happening a couple times a day, or one time a day over a couple weeks. But the idea is we want to find opportunities for teachers to get, they said it. In their surveys, they said they felt supported if they had more time.